on America. Pictures go by, the land and the sky, rolling across America.
With Amtrak's lower fares, you can travel across the country and back for just $275 or less. Or turn a one-way ticket worth over $50 into a round-trip ticket for just $7 more.
That was a commercial for Amtrak from 1985. This morning, Amtrak and other train services are back on track at the busiest station in the country. The company spent almost 2 months repairing tracks at New York's Penn Station. More than 650,000 people and more than 1,300 trains pass through Penn Station every day.
The massive summer project at the bustling hub involved 360 workers installing 897 track ties. And this is just the beginning of upgrades needed for the sprawling Amtrak system nationwide. Amtrak's new president and CEO, Richard Anderson, joins us once again at the table. Good morning to you, Mr. Anderson. Last time you were here as president of Delta. Now they brought you out of retirement for the trains.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate.
What, you didn't have it? And you're not getting paid. You're not getting paid to do this. You came out, why?
To serve, because Amtrak is an iconic brand in America, and it provides an essential service to many communities. And of course, in the Northeast Corridor, it's critical to people getting to work every day.
It's not without controversy. Go ahead.
Will we ever have the quality of trains that they have in Japan and in other places in the world, like parts of Europe?
Well, we're challenged in that regard because, by and large, our passenger trains run on the freight rail networks. And in countries like Japan and France, they have dedicated, high-speed, much straighter tracks that are built for a very different passenger experience. And we haven't allocated or made the public policy decision in our country, except for the Acela in the Northeast Corridor, to make those sorts of investments.
Yeah, in Japan, they go 200 miles an hour. Here, they go 150 miles an hour. Do you see that changing?
Not in the near term, not unless we make the infrastructure investments to support high-speed rail. And as you think about how the demographic of our country is changing from what it was 100 years ago to people moving to urban areas and very concentrated urban corridors, number one, and number two, the growth of ride sharing, where people don't own cars and they use ride sharing. More and more mass transit and commuter trains should play a more important role in how we live in urban areas.
So what do you consider your imperative?
First imperative is to get the infrastructure fixed. And the work we did at Penn Station shows Amtrak can do a great job doing this. And we have a lot of investment to make in the Northeast Corridor. Second, we got to clean up our trains, run our trains on time, fix the interiors of our trains, and grow our services in the regions that provide the highest levels of service to the communities around the country.
What kind of window are you looking at? I mean, how monumental is that? You took Delta from a small southern carrier to what many feel is the best U.S. airline, the biggest U.S. airline. Amtrak's in a lot of trouble. Penn Station's been in a lot of trouble. How long does that take? If you think you can turn it around, how long does it take to do that?
Well, it's a multi-year effort, and part of the planning process with our board is to lay out what those plans are: a long-term fleet plan, a long-term engineering plan, and of course the Gateway project here in New York.
10 years, 20 years?
Well, it took 10 years at Delta, so it'll be a multi-year project, let me put it that way.
And making the switch from planes to trains, was it a learning curve for you? Did you look you had no rail experience. Did you look in the mirror and say, I can do this? Or were you a little concerned?
Well, you're always concerned when you don't know the subject matter. So it's it's a lot of homework.
It's the same idea. How do you move people from one place to another?
Yeah, it's capital intensive. It's a network business. Safety is really important. Customer service is important. Very similar. On the other hand, it's very different technology, but I'm fortunate. I have a co-CEO who also came out of retirement on a volunteer basis, Wick Moorman.
How'd they convince you guys to do it? Huh?
Well, I wanted to serve in some capacity.
Okay.
So tell me about this, in terms of the future. Is there technology happening that might be dramatically change the way transportation works in America?
Well, if you think about
Elon
the
Musk had some
technologies,
idea
yeah, that's
that'll work.
well, I mean, the thing we could do is if we could just get our train speeds up and operate more nonstop service in very densely populated urban corridors, it would be a great service to the traveling public in America. Think about what Acela has done, and we're on the verge of putting a new Acela system in place. That
What is the new Acela?
well, right now we're under construction on replacing the current Acela fleet with 28 new Acela train sets that are going to increase the capacity about 40% and allow us to do half-hourly service from Washington, D.C. to New York and New York to Boston on the hour.
There was also talk that they're going to make the space between the seats shorter. Could you please make sure they don't do that?
Well, we're not going to make the space between the seats shorter. That was an idea.
You heard that rumor.
Well, we talked about doing it because one of the questions we've had is making it more affordable. I mean, remember the thing about much of what we do at Amtrak, our average fare is about $80. And on the commuter rails, it's even less than $10 on average. But the bottom line is we want to make it affordable and usable for people. And one of our great advantages is there's no middle seats. There's tons of leg room. Our coach on Amtrak is much, much better than first class on an airline.
So you're not going to change the seat spacing?
No.
Okay.
Should you privatize it?
Well, the question is, I mean, you can't really privatize it because there are pieces of it that have to be subsidized. I mean, you could privatize if you wanted the pieces that are profitable, but that wouldn't make a lot of sense. I mean, look, this is basic infrastructure. We subsidize, I think the subsidy last year for highways was about $45 billion. The subsidy for aviation was about $16 billion. And when you think about what we do and what's sort of fundamental to public policy, it's to fund infrastructure.
All right, Richard Anderson, so far so good. The summer of hell did not happen here in New York. So
We actually
great.
did. We did a great job, and thanks
did.
to our partners at Long Island Railroad and New Jersey Transit.
Thank you, sir.